And now we want to turn to Dr. Ely Karmon, Senior Researcher at the Institute for Counter-Terrorism at Rackman University, because Dr. Karmon, the one who's supposed to be an honest broker, a broker maybe, definitely not honest, Qatar, now its ruler is blaming Israel of genocide. And how can you, again, not that there were any false perceptions of Qatar, its intentions, its actions, and yet how can you continue negotiations when this is the player who's supposed to mediate?
Good afternoon. Indeed, I think personally I have appeared several times on your show and i24 news in English and in French, and I consider for many years Qatar a real danger for Israel. But it was the decision of the Israeli government to involve them in all this strategy of keeping Hamas quiet. Now, since the beginning, although they were indeed the mediator, I don't think that they were the honest broker, but they were the mediator which had most contacts with the Hamas leadership, because they have all the political leadership in Doha. We know, for instance, that they made everything possible to have a general ceasefire and to stop the Israeli fight against the Hamas, in order to help Hamas to survive. And even they spoke about the possibility that in the future they will be part of the solution, I mean Qatar, the solution of Gaza. Now, I would ask the Qatari leadership, for instance, they were very well aware what happened in other operations against Hamas during the years, because they paid for the reconstruction every time the Hamas returned to fight, and they had, again, the need to rebuild things that were destroyed by our military forces, especially by the Air Force, and they knew exactly what is the price for the civil population. And another question, all these leaders of Hamas in Doha, I am completely sure that the Qatari intelligence is following them very closely for their own need, because every country does such things. Did they know something about what happened on 7th of October? Even if not the exact day or the exact hour, they clearly knew that something is preparing. Right. And did they announce Israel or the United States that something is preparing? I think in the future, not so far future, we have Israel and the United States and the international community will have to check how much they knew, how much they were coordinated with the Hamas leadership. And the fact is that Ankara, Erdogan, President Erdogan, which is not a good friend of Israel, expulsed some of them which were speaking openly for the atrocities, in favor of the atrocities, and even prayed for the atrocities.
Yes, Qatar created the problem, or helped creating the problem, just in order to be perceived as the solution at this point in time. A cynical dual game that will have to come to test in the near future, as you're saying, Dr. Karmon. But meanwhile, perhaps the only player who's really putting their money where their mouth is equal heart and mouth, so to speak, the Houthis terrorizing the Red Sea, by that terrorizing world trade, and by that more or less dragging the U.S. into some sort of reaction, more than what we've seen until this point in time?
I'd like to say one more thing about Qatar investigation. I think that Israeli agencies can press Qatar to do more, because they have a possibility of physically pressing the Hamas leadership, and thus easing perhaps the conditions for the Hamas leadership in Gaza to accept a new deal. Now, about the Houthis, again, since 2017, when I for the first time wrote about the Houthis, I analyzed them as Hizbut B. Because they are really part of the axis of resistance since 2016-17, ideologically and militarily. Right. I am a bit surprised by the United States position, although I know that President Biden decided in the first weeks of his presidency to cancel the presence of the Houthis on the list of terrorist organizations. after Trump put it also quite late, I would think. But the own forces are attacked. Even the forces in Syria and Iraq are attacked by proxies of Iran. So I think that the response, the military response, should be much more severe, much more. I think today or yesterday there was already a bombing by perhaps the United States on the targets, but the international community and especially the United States have the duty to defend the international naval and commercial moves.
And yet, and by the way, Dr. Karmon, for the second time in the past 10 minutes, another round of red siren alerts in the north, still in the city of Kiryat Shmona and its surroundings. And perhaps that is the root of the problem. Iran, to an extent, eating the cake and having it too, unleashing its proxies against Israel and the U.S., and so far not paying a price for it. Dr. Ely Karmon, Senior Researcher at the Institute for Counter-Terrorism at the University. Thank you very much for this.